Hi guys, back on. So I'm going to carry on doing my gain staging, and I had a thought after I did the initial video that I should. Let me just check the stream's working all right. I should not be lazy and do a full gain stage as I would. Yeah, basically, sometimes you've got to be pragmatic about how much time you want to spend on different tracks. But I thought, yeah, for this track, I'm going to go in and do a proper full gain stage the best way I can. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you missed this morning's live stream, just go back to that and watch it because I kind of explained to you a little bit about how I prepped this track and bounced in place. And especially if you use Logic, I've got a quick way of bouncing in place, which means you don't have to export stems to a new project. And what we're aiming for is to hit the plugin sweet spot to make sure that our analog modeled components are happy. Yeah, so that's why we gain stage, to make sure we have lots of headroom to stop our mixed clipping. So when we get to the mastering stage, we've got headroom to work with, and also we're making sure our plugins are happy and content with the level that we're feeding them, much like in the analog world they would have been then as well. Cool. So what I did this morning was I bounced in the sounds, and I actually started to gain stage. So I set the kick drum to have about -6 dB peak level. Now, there's a fast kind of way of doing this gain staging where basically, as a rule of thumb, if you set any transient information to be peaking around -6 and any sustained information without lots of transients like basses and pads and yeah, things that don't have big transients, kind of vocals as well. A lot of the time, they should be around -12 to -18. But actually, there's a more kind of effective way of doing that, which is to use a VU meter. So I've got the Waves VU meter. There are free VU meters. I think I've got one, a free one. Is it LSR Audio? Yeah, so this is a free VU meter here. But I've got the Waves one, which I've paid for, so I'm going to use that one. But yeah, if you don't have a VU meter, then you can get that one for free as well. So what this is kind of the sweet spot, I'd say, for the plugins. On my research tells me that from kind of -7 to 0, but the closer we can get to 0, the more that's going to be the sweet spot. So kind of all basically, obviously, we're not looking for every sound to have the same volume, but what we want is for the sounds, the inherent volume of the sound, the recorded volume, the volume coming into the channel, to be around that point, and then all the plugins will be happy downstream, and then the output volume set by the output fader we can set to whatever we want. Obviously, our background vinyl noise is not going to be the same level as the kick drum, for example, so that's not going to happen. But what we're trying to do is make sure that the sound coming into the channel is set to the right level, then the plugins can process them at the right level, and then the output is set by the channel fader. So what I'm going to do a mix with this mix I'm now going to do basically from the bottom up. So I'm going to have to turn down everything and start again, but that's fine. Let me put my headphones back on. So let's start with the kick. So this is on stereo out. Let's make sure, let's just bypass this. What's going on here? Okay, so that's going to confuse things a little bit. So let's just turn off that gain plugin because we don't need that anymore, because we're going to gain stage from here. So let's play the kick. Okay, so you can see the kick is peaking a bit above 0 on this VU meter. And remember, the VU meter is reflecting how our ear actually hears. So it's much more accurate reflection of volume than a peak meter is in terms of our ears, in terms of the energy that our ears would perceive. So let's turn it down a little bit. And you see we're hitting pretty much bang on 0. Now I've got pre-fader metering switched on here. Okay, so let me just put that fader to unity gain and see where we're at. Okay, so that was a mistake. That should have been on unity gain. So let's turn it down a bit more. it was taking a little while to catch up there. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So in this case, it's about -10. Okay, so let's turn down that kick channel. So let's go to this sound here. Okay, so this is obviously going to need a much bigger boost. Let's put it to unity gain again. Now this is obviously getting close to hitting my peak level. So I don't want to be introducing any kind of clipping, but obviously the output fader is going to control this anyway, but we'll leave that there. And you can see how to get those two sounds, I'm just turn it down a little bit, to get those two sounds to be at a similar perceived volume, we've actually have to change the volume quite radically between the two sounds. Okay, so let's go to our hat now. Okay, so this is going to need to be boosted a lot more. It shows us the sounds that are going to need some compression as well, because you can see that although we want to keep the transients in there, you can see maybe this could be a candidate for some compression, because it's still very low on the VU meter, even though we're actually getting close to being at peak level. Let's turn that down. It's giving us some quite interesting information, this VU meter. So let's bring this one up. Clap. So as I said, the sweet spot is kind of between 7 and 0. So I want to give myself, I'm a bit scared of taking it all the way up to the top, so we'll just tone that down a little bit. So this is a snare loop. So I'll be a bit more conservative there. That's interesting. I wonder what this is here. Weird. I don't know what that was. Okay, so now we're looking at the 909. This VU meter responds in a different way to different frequencies, and it reflects the way that our ear hears different frequencies as well. Okay, this snare roll, which I think has got some volume automation on it. I wonder if I just switch that off for a second. This is obviously too loud. Okay, let's actually just switch that off for the time being. Clap. This is going to be really low. There's actually something a little bit weird going on with this clap. What I might just do, this is a good opportunity to actually notice anything that needs to be amended as well. So I'm going to do Control X and do this strip silence and just apply some fade outs on these sounds. Oops. We seem to have different lengths there. I'm going to leave it in because it's been like that the whole time. So. Okay. Let's go to tambourine. So I should take off this volume automation. I know this isn't the most fun video I've done, but it is nonetheless important. So that's cool. We're in that little that sweet spot. Triangle. Don't worry, but we're going to have to start from 0, so don't worry about the mix. So I can't get this into the sweet spot, but that's just the nature of that sound. It doesn't have the perceived kind of volume in terms of the frequency content. So that's fine. Oh, leave that open. Crash is good. Same with the finger snap, so very, very transient. So that could be a good one for a limiter. You can see another way that this is quite useful, this VU meter, is it's showing us things that have a big transient and don't have as much perceived volume. Okay. These are going to be really transient again. So again, just the nature of that sound means it's not going to be getting up there. Cowbell as well, it's going to be the same. Remember, this is only the volume coming into the channel. This is not the volume we're getting these sounds at. It's just so we make sure we have a good level going into our plugins. I hope that's clear. You're screaming at me, asking me why the cowbell is so loud. bass. So actually, I'm not going to use the stereo because I've got some processing on here. I'm going to use the bass VU meter. That's probably because this has got some of the bass taken out with the LFO and the Pro MB. So it's looking pretty good. We have 3-part. So I can go back to my stereo VU meter. Let's get it up a little bit. That's looking like a pretty good level. Sample. Let's just take off this processing for now. So that's in a decent kind of range. Okay, that's also looking all right. Oops, I need to do that. Okay, this muted guitar part. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. We're getting onto the effects, and it goes about the effects. Okay. Big error, should have been with the fader up. No, it's way too loud. So this is where actually we can also look at kind of now these are little like ghost kind of hits, but we can kind of use this information as well to let's just try taking that out to actually do some pre-processing on our sounds to make things a bit more even if the VU meter looks like it's dancing around a bit too much. So we can kind of keep it in a nice range so the compressors that work on that guitar are going to be a little bit happier. So as I said before, it's a good opportunity to have a look if there's any like dodgy edits or things, you know, fades that haven't been put in there. You can see there are there. Okay, so onto the effects. Now the effects, you know, again, they're not going to be the same as, you know, our kick drum or vocals or things like that. So, you know, let's not worry too much about the effects, but you can see here there's some quite big volume discrepancies between sounds on the same channel, which I don't want. Plus 1.1. I think my mouse is on its way out. Come on. Come on. There we go. Come on. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to be at 1.1. There we go. So let's just, I'm just going to kind of visually do these quicker. I always kind of lose my lose a bit more motivation when it comes to the effects. So I've already kind of done this channel here. So that means that we've now, well, we should have the vinyl dirt is going to be a very tough one to get up to a decent level. You see, it's just got no perceived volume to it, really. Whoops. Okay. So let's whoa, just take that off. So now the next thing we need to face is that we've kind of we've now blown apart the volume balance that I had. Okay, so I'm actually just going to reset everything in terms of pan and volume. We should have nothing playing. Okay, so now we can start to actually make sure that we're setting a mixed balance to work with. And when it comes to the master, like the pre-master level, before we actually do any mastering, and I do have some mastering plugins on here, I don't need that on there. So we're talking about pre-master level, not master level, because then when we're talking about the master level, we're talking about peak. That's when we do definitely want to use our peak meter. But let's put the VU meter at the top. We don't need that gain plugin anymore because we're going to do it properly. Volcano is our automated filter, and I've got two limiters, both one clipping pre-limiter and one limiting. So we can now set volumes, knowing that our pre-fader level, the level coming into the fader, is going to be right for us to mix. So we are aiming for about -6 dB of level on the master, and I've heard people talk about -15 as being a good mix level for the kick. So that's usually kind of something I kind of look at, maybe a little bit higher than that. So let's go, I might try just maybe -12. Okay, so now we've got like a kick layer. Now this needs to be EQ'd, but we'll do that in good time. This is just like a character layer for the kick. Okay, we've got a clap here. Let's bring that clap up. It's more important than the hat. So hi Pat, who's joined. How's it going? Let's bring the hat in. It's not playing there, great, thank you for that. Let's bring this in. Snare loop. Okay, let's bring our 909 in. Okay, tambourine, looking for the sounds that play a little bit more consistently. more the foundations of the beat. Triangle. That was a bit funky. Oops. Wow, twice in a row. Delete and return. There it is. Okay. Crash. Finger snap. So we've got our disco break here. Claves. Now, arguably, I've probably boosted those too high up in level because now I've got hardly any resolution to the fader. So what I might try doing is just turn that down a little bit. So I'm trying to get a balance between it not being too low in the VU meter, but also having a bit of kind of plug-in, level resolution on the fader as well. So this is, you know, laborious, but important. So again, I might just turn that down a little bit. Okay, clap loop. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Main beat. This is my main loop. Okay. These are all just working balances. They can be changed. You know, it's a fluid process. Okay, let's bring the sample up next. Yeah, let's do the sample next because I should have actually done that really quite a bit earlier on. Okay. I don't know why that's got that. Metaflange is going crazy there. I wish Logic would fix the automation. I just don't know how long does it have to be like that when you've got the mix down and up at some point and it just goes crazy. It's just really frustrating. Anyway. Okay, so guitar, muted guitar, plays once right at the end. I just wonder if it's even necessary. I'm going to leave that muted for the time being because I just don't know if it's actually really. I try and things that aren't really clearly audible. I often take out. I think I've got the identical sound playing on both tracks here. Oh, cut the sound down. Yeah, let's use the pan round one. We can delete the whole channel. Okay, so what's this level looking like? Logic's at it again. How that ended up being so low. Anyway, Yeah. I think I might need to turn up that effect slightly. What do you think? Okay. So, there's two sounds I haven't done, isn't there? Clap. Here. Okay, so where's that little disco loop? There's some kind of little, is it on this sample? There's like an annoying little, like a start of the next hit. Yeah, it's gone. Okay, cool. So I'm going to leave it there. And that is a good starting point for me to start mixing this track. So just to recap, obviously this morning I went through bouncing the stems down in this project rather than having to do it all separately and put it into an empty project, which I do like. I like the psychologically, it's kind of definitely appeals to me, but it just adds a lot of work to the process. So I'm trying to get out of the habit of doing that. Actually just going to hide this this guitar so it's not in the way. And what I might do, because I've got some sounds that I've obviously got processing on them here, which I might just bounce down dry versions. No, I'm just going to leave it. It's fine. So anyway, this morning I bounced in the stems to give myself the mental space to start the mix down, because as I said, I like to really spend my time on the mix down. I love mixing my tracks down, so so I kind of like to give myself a fresh project, put my mixing hat on and start mixing the track from scratch. I don't always do that, because sometimes I don't think the track sounds good enough and I don't think it's worth it, but it always sounds better at the end. And when I finish the mix down on this, you can have a listen to my what I call the MIDI project straight out, you know, without any like posh mixing, versus the finished mix down. And I really hope it sounds better, because otherwise I will have wasted my time. So yeah, so I started bouncing in the parts, and then I did a very basic gain stage where I just put the kick drum in, and I got the level of the kick drum to be just right. And then I kind of thought about it this afternoon and thought, no, I'm going to do it, you know, in the full kind of gain stage. So I went through every single channel, used pre-fader metering to check the level coming in. And then what I did after this afternoon was to use the VU meter, go through every channel on Unity Gain and use the clip gain on here to make sure that we have the correct volume coming in. which means that the plugins downstream of the input volume are going to be happy. So if I load on a vintage plugin like a 1176, you can see it's kind of it's compressing a couple of dB. I can change that with the input volume, but it's not kind of pegging and going crazy on the meter, because it's being fed the correct level that it likes to work with. So that's the reason we do this gain staging, is that we have headroom at the end, and also we have individual levels coming into channels that plugins like to work with, and it will make a huge difference on your mix. If you don't already do this and you work with terrible gain staging, this will make a big difference. And also finally, I have a VU meter on the output, and now to check I have a good level coming into my master fader ready for mastering, I'm looking again for around 0 to be hitting on that 0 point. That means I've got a good decent level coming into my to my master fader ready for mastering. And also what I've done is done a fresh volume balance. And I've done that in my headphones, so that's not going to be necessary to finish volume balance. I'll check that in my monitors, and I've got an Avantone mix cube here. I've got my Dynaudios. I've got some really terrible little Carbufer speakers, like computer mini jack speakers that I absolutely love because I know them so well. I've got a TV up there, a Samsung TV, which has got the worst speakers I think I've ever heard, outside some of my son's kids' toys speakers. So I can check them on all those systems to make sure I've got a good volume balance that works as well. So, but anyway, as I said, Monday I'm trying to do more kind of tasks like that that aren't as creatively taxing, because I find I kind of swing into the week a little bit more from Tuesday onwards. So I'm going to leave it there, and I will be back tomorrow. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do yet, but it's going to be a bit more creative. I might start a new idea, and then I might also work on some of the tracks I was looking at last week and try and push them a little bit further on. So yeah, hopefully I'll have you back tomorrow. Cheers, guys.